Aha. What makes a Star War? Did I have to say the title? I don't know. There's another one of those vlogs where it's like I'm reading a thing, so I'm going to be looking this way a lot, so I hope this side of my face looks good. Wow, what a prima donna. Star Wars! It's where it really all began for me. It was a thing that set my imagination on fire before I can even remember. So what better way to start the topical vlogs on my own I said I'd get to than by talking about it. Originally, I wanted to write my own review, 2 years removed, of The Last Jedi. But market saturation on the topic tells me I'd be doing nothing new. My main talking point, however, I think is rife for a discussion of its own. See, there's something about The Last Jedi that just doesn't make it feel like a Star Wars film. We can nitpick about military strategy, character actions, and the like all we want, but those things don't break a movie on their own. I just haven't seen it discussed that something more is off about this movie. I think ultimately The Last Jedi gets hit with what people feared would happen with The Force Awakens. It's old history now, but back when The Force Awakens came out, there was really a number of things that could have happened. Do they go their own way with the series? Do they try to make something totally different? Or do they play it safe with something... Okay, here we go. Do they try and make something totally different? Or do they play it safe and make something that doesn't go too far from what made Star Wars famous in the first place? Well, we know it was the latter now, but lots of series have changed under new leadership in some way. Hell, look at what our very own J.J. Abrams did to Star Trek. It was a very real possibility that he was going to take Star Wars in a direction that it really hadn't gone before. Of course, Star Wars had $4 billion riding on it, and it was still a household name, so that would never happen. The Last Jedi, on the other hand, came from a visionary director with no commercial blockbuster successes under his belt. And it went his own way. And it went out of its way to go his own way. Here's the thing. The sequel trilogy are made with modern sensibilities. The fact of the matter is, the original trilogy is too simple to make for a successful movie these days. Look at what a blockbuster is now. Marvel movies are starting to seem schlocky now, but even the earliest entries have more depth than most of the OT. The plots are contrived, intricate, and they always try to have a worldly theme, talking about what the characters are going through and adjusting to modern society and what's the morality of being a hero. So, too, do modern Star Wars movies. They try to be a little more arty. You see, back in 1977, clearly I would know from experience, movies as a storytelling medium were still relatively ambiguous. They were still something of a novelty, and movie making was just a mysterious process hidden behind closed doors that only filmmaker people did. I don't know. Well, this is why when Star Wars came out, it was a slam dunk. From that first shot of the Star Destroyer flying in, filling the entire width of the screen and just getting longer and longer, and it just keeps going. Well, the writing was on the wall, even though there was really no writing yet. This was a scene with no dialogue, no story, no nothing, even no context. Well, except for the opening crawl, I guess, but who likes reading? It existed just to impress the audience right out of the gate, to take them to another world, truly far, far away from our own. The first 6 Star Wars films are full of these sequences. The extended Hoth sequence, the speeder bike chase on Endor, the pod race. Many of these scenes not exist to tell the story, but merely to draw viewers into George Lucas's action-packed sci-fi universe. And hey, this is what was entertaining back then. You weren't going to see these kinds of things on TV or at a stage at the theater. It was a spectacle, a real show, a real unique movie experience. To impress with visual effects was part of movie making at the time, and it was all part of the Star Wars experience to see what new sorts of actions Lucas would pull off this time. This is something the prequels continued to do in spades. The action sequences in the prequels was Lucas doing things he couldn't pull off realistically in the original trilogy. I mean, just think about the pod race. Try describing that sequence in words to someone who might not know what it is. Big, unique machines held together with purple lightning race across the desert at blurring speeds, wrecking each other, and... Yeah, no. This is a very visual sort of scene. But really, it's a sequence that tells a story all its own, with more or less no dialogue, and further than that, it's just really cool to watch. It's a place where visual effects, and even more than that, sound design really come together to form something that is interesting to watch on merits, more or less exclusive to movie making. And I just want to talk a minute about the sound design in the pod race. You could turn the visuals off and have the sound design tell the entire story. That's how good that sequence is. Curiously enough, though, I think this is one of the things that got the prequels in trouble. By 1999, the curtain had been raised on movie making. It wasn't this mysterious thing anymore. You could go to film school. You could make your movies in your backyard now. You could go watch Star Wars, the magic and the mystery you got by cutting out the box tops on cereal boxes. Remember when we used to do that? That was great. Right. And all the secrets of the saga would be revealed. You'd see the miniatures and the special effects and the green screen and all that stuff. So in a way, you walked into the prequels knowing that a lot of the effects were done the same way. On a computer, and they can do anything on computers. So like, whatever. It's 1999, we've got the Matrix over here, man! Who even cares? I mean, we won't talk about how the prequels standardized good CGI, laying the groundwork for the form of special effects that would go on to be used in, every effects-heavy blockbuster in the next 20 years. Indulgent displays of special effects seem to have died with Avatar. How is another story? How is another story? But after 2009, it seemed to be frowned upon to halt the movie just for some visual flair. Whatever, I can go Google some nice landscapes or some art, or go play a video game and stare at pretty stuff on my own time. And so, the sequel trilogy lacks these, and subsequently tends to lack unique action sequences. Think about it. So many of the action scenes in the sequel trilogy are ground firefight, space battle, lightsaber battle, etc. They don't often delve into the cool for cool's sake, like the speeder chase or the pod race, or that part of Grievous versus Obi-Wan where they chase each other through the Utapau City. Obi-Wan's riding a lizard, Grievous is riding a wheel! It's just not what you do in movies anymore, but it is what you do in Star Wars. Again, say what you will about the prequels, but when it came to action sequences, they really came up with some unique ideas. So, indulgent effects is one thing, and what the sequel trilogy has replaced with that is story and theming. Everything has to be tied to the theme. Everything has to matter or be part of a setup. The first 6 Star Wars movies are pretty simple. There's good, there's evil, they fight. The original trilogy especially wanted to tell a story, show off some cool shit, and then get the hell out of there. There, you can explain these movies in pretty simple terms. There's little to no symbolism or theming in A New Hope. It's just a straight-up adventure movie in space. What helps it is that its characters are archetypes that are easily likable and play well off each other. Naive farm boy Luke paired with wise monk Obi-Wan, joining with questionably smooth operator Han, and eventually the sass machine that is Princess Leia. None of them have very many character moments in that film. None of them really go through development. I mean, Luke has to suffer through the death of Obi-Wan, which he seems more upset about than the death of his aunt and uncle who raised him for his whole life. I mean, they just are. One of the crazy things about the prequel films is that the hecking D-plot mattered. Yeah, the Phantom Menace is about how the good Naboo forces versus the evil Trade Federation. But the political stuff going on in the background is actually super relevant to what happens in 2 and 3 as Palpatine rises to become the Emperor. It's one of the things about the prequel trilogy that was actually shocking because the OT didn't have that shit. It just had goofy people getting their hands chopped off. Hey, when are you gonna run out and fall apart? And even still, that D-plot about political infiltration can pretty much be tuned out, and you'll still get all you need out of the main story featuring our main characters. It's storytelling these days that every scene has to contribute to something later in the same film, something to character development. It's such a weird thing, and I don't know if I've described it here well enough or not, but it's like, you can't waste people's time. You can't just have something there to be there, or to, set up in the long run. Yeah, I really don't think I explained that part well, but maybe you get a sense for what I'm talking about if you know modern movies or whatever. So, indulgent action sequences, simple plots that aren't dedicated to a theme. I don't think Star Wars really tries to go out of its way to have a message or stand for something. It never tried to do things that are daring for the sake of it, outside of special effects. I think The Force Awakens deliberately ticks more of these boxes than The Last Jedi does. For example, it really only has 2 threads to follow, the protagonist and the antagonist. It keeps things simple. There's good, there's evil, they fight. I think this is one of the reasons that Force Awakens doesn't catch as much flack. It changes the things that you do change in Star Wars. You have new characters, you have new situations, to some degree you have new technology, while still leaving a bunch of the core values of the Star Wars franchise intact. The Last Jedi, on the other hand, seems to flaunt what makes itself a Star Wars movie. It tries to make the plot beats that would be decisive in a typical Star Wars movie mean little to nothing. It feels like a movie that wants to be different for the sake of being different. It feels like one that defies series traditions and plays with its long-standing characters just because it's given the opportunity to. It feels like it has action sequences because it's obligated to. Do you really think there would have been an action sequence in the throne room if there didn't have to be? If you couldn't put these important characters in a room and, not have them fight? Yeah, I didn't think. And so, heck, sometimes I feel like there wouldn't have been action sequences at all in this movie just because it would be different. And if you watch the movie again, it really doesn't need action sequences. There's a lot of the drama that just exists between the characters and the situation that they're in. The sequences it does have are largely unoriginal, and some are more or less cut and pasted from previous films. Battle of Crate. Well, hell, the one vaguely Star Wars-y moment in the film was the Lightspeed Ram. Because it looked so goddamn cool, I didn't really give a shit about the logistics. And that's just what Star Wars does sometimes. It was never this realistic space odyssey thing. It's a sign of the times, really. I wonder if you really could make Star Wars like Star Wars again and return to simple plots, fun action, and really just satisfying experiences. Is spectacle still possible in movies without using a gimmick like 3D? Can we still get away with simple plots and make them compelling without having to ingest existential struggles into all of our characters? Sure, it's pretty relatable when Rey doesn't know what the hell to do with her life, but does it have to permeate any scene she's in? Does it have to be the driving force behind her? Luke was resolute. His struggle was that he thought he knew better than he was being told to him. He thought he knew better than Yoda. Oh yeah, I can go save my friends. I can confront Vader. Though Yoda's like, no you can't. He's like, I got this. Hell, The Empire Strikes Back manages to do what The Last Jedi wants to do with a hell of a lot more subtlety. If The Last Jedi is about failure, then The Empire's got some news for you. Pretty much all the main characters fail in this one. Han fails because he's deceived by Lando. Luke fails because he doesn't listen to Yoda and falls into Darth Vader's trap. Hell, even Darth Vader ultimately fails in this movie, which is a weird thing to say, because Darth Vader looked victorious. He spends the entire film trying to capture Luke, setting up this whole thing in Cloud City just to lure him there, only to lose him right when he's at arm's length. And Vader gets to keep his dignity, only becoming more fearsome in the eyes of the audience as he entraps Han and Leia, and then beats the shit out of Luke. I don't know why that took me so long to say. There's even commentary on the flaws of the Jedi at the end, where Luke loses faith in them due to them leaving out information pertinent to his confronting Vader. And it does all this without dialogue that spells it out, without highlighting the failure of it all. It doesn't have to tell us about failures, it just happens, and we know it. The ending is somber and reflective, I'm not as hard on The Force Awakens for its flaws because at least it does a decent job at being a good Star Wars film. The Last Jedi fails that and therefore must be judged on other merits, the merits that other films are judged by. This is why all those other videos out there look at how well the movie tells its stories, how its themes are formed and executed and brought to fruition, and so on. It just can't be judged like other Star Wars films because clearly it wasn't made in the mindset of being a Star Wars film. Just look at Rian Johnson behind the scenes. See the way he laughs when presented with a certain alien design, and see how he talks about making a different Star Wars movie. It's strange how earnest his "I think we just made a Star Wars movie" is, even if it isn't meant to be. This is why I think the anthology movies do a better job at being Star Wars movies than the sequel trilogy does. They have to work within constraints. They have to squeeze a good story out of this specific lemon. They have to get from point A to point B, where we know the story is going, and then they have to make that interesting in a way only Star Wars can. And to that end, they become more successful for it. They have to have unique set pieces. They have to take a moment to indulge in how cool it is to live in the Star Wars universe. The train heist in Solo is a perfectly Star Wars sequence. It's straight out of a Western, except the train can go sideways and enemies can fly in on speeders and shoot lightning at you. They're not going to bust and blocks, right? They're not going to bust blocks just sticking with simple plots and indulge in action sequences. They're not going to set any trends, and I'm sure a lot of non-Star Wars fans have pretty much forgotten about Rogue One and Solo altogether at this point. But if all Star Wars is a bunch of relatively enjoyable movies with cool things in them, then that's true to what Star Wars is. Maybe that's all it ever was, and the first ones just came out at the right time. That's probably what it is. And honestly, I'm okay with that. If Star Wars just wants to be a bunch of fun movies that let me escape reality for a while and go to cool space place, then that's what I'm about. So, anyways, that's about all I got written. So this is the part where I ask for your comments on Star Wars. What makes a Star Wars movie to you? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Are Star Wars movies more than I give them credit for? I mean, I'm willing to certainly admit that a movie like Empire deals with theming a lot more than, say, the original does. And I think A New Hope is a particular anomaly in its own way, because I do feel like the rest of the original trilogy did have to follow a theme. I think that the prequels follow a theme, like having the political intrigue in it, because they were conceived all at the same time. Whereas Star Wars, like, you weren't sure if it was going to go past A New Hope, so then they had to plan the other two sort of subsequently. Whereas the prequels were all planned out, they were going from A to B, and they had to make it visually and viscerally interesting. The sequel trilogies does not have that, in my opinion. It certainly doesn't have the planned out feel that the prequels do, for obvious reasons, but it still doesn't really reach the level of planness that even the original trilogy had, because it kind of felt like everything built off of each other. There are a couple of other things I didn't talk about, like design. I could probably do a whole sort of short video on the design of the sequel trilogy and how, from a marketing standpoint, The Last Jedi is terrible, and I'm surprised Disney let them get away with making so few changes to the character design. Because in every movie, there was always something new. In Empire Strikes Back, we had, for example, the Stormtrooper. Look at how the Stormtrooper has sort of changed over time. A New Hope, regular Stormtrooper. Empire Strikes Back, Snowtroopers. Return of the Jedi, Scout Troopers, all very distinct designs from one another. In the Clone Wars, even the antagonists sort of had different. We had battle droids in Attack of the Clones. We had super battle droids, and in Revenge of the Sith, we had Magna Guards. I could do a whole video on that and how, like, the designs just are a big part of Star Wars and how that's part of what makes Star Wars 2. I didn't end up writing that because I didn't figure out where to put it in. But, yeah, I mean, that's another thing that gets me too, especially growing up in an area where, I was marketed to. I was a kid when Star Wars was, like, huge in marketing, because the prequels were coming out and all that stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about Star Wars. Rise of Skywalker's coming out. I am somehow excited for it. I hope as long as they go back to it being a ridiculously fun movie, then it's going to be a good one. So we'll see. Have a good day, I suppose. May the Force be with you, right? Like, that's what we say? Yeah. That's not the button.